This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young. The United Nations, Britain, France, even Russia and China are all calling for restraint in Kashmir. They're trying to prevent a war between nuclear superpowers. Overnight, India targeted 9 sites in Pakistan's territory. It called it a measured response to attacks on India-administered Kashmir last month. But Pakistan says it's responding to an act of war. In total, 31 people have been reported dead this morning. For more, here is the CBC's South Asia correspondent, Salima Shivji.
The missiles were fired just after midnight. India's military hitting 9 locations inside Pakistan and the part of contested Kashmir that Pakistan controls. Vikram Misri, India's foreign secretary, says the target was camps where militants are trained.
Measured, non-escalatory, proportionate, and responsible.
Pakistan does not see it that way, calling this an act of war over the Kashmir region, which both countries claim in full, but only control in part. Lieutenant General Ahmed Sharif Chowdhury speaks for Pakistan's military.
Pakistan only responded in self-defense.
He says Pakistan is retaliating and claims it has already shot down several Indian fighter jets. And there were more explosions this morning from artillery fire exchanged along the contested border. The strikes come 2 weeks after a deadly militant attack that targeted tourists in Indian-controlled Kashmir, which India blames on Pakistan, a claim Islamabad denies.
Make sure that it stays below the threshold of a nuclear conflict.
Kshitij Bajpai, a senior South Asia research fellow at Chatham House in London, says when 2 nuclear powers exchange fire, there's always a fear it could spiral.
The risk of accidental escalation. There's limited external pressure on either party, and both sides have clearly developed a more assertive military posture in recent years.
The international community is calling for restraint, but the tensions are high in a long-standing conflict that has flared up decade after decade. Salima Shivji, CBC News, Mumbai.
Fighting is escalating between Israel and Houthi rebels in Yemen. This morning, officials are assessing the damage after Israel's airstrike at Yemen's main airport. And just days earlier, Iran-backed Houthi rebels claimed responsibility for a strike near Israel's airport in Tel Aviv. The CBC's Sasha Petrusik is following developments.
Passenger jets burned and black smoke billowed from Yemen's main airport, left disabled after 4 Israeli airstrikes. We will settle the score with anyone who attacks Israel, said Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Tuesday's retaliation was for a missile that almost hit Israel's international airport over the weekend, fired by Yemen's Houthi rebels. The Houthis have sent a steady stream of missiles and drones toward Israel, launched in anger at Israel's attacks on Gaza. Israel responded with strikes across Yemen, raising tensions.
Mark a grave escalation in an already fragile and volatile regional context.
UN spokesman Farhan Haq called for dialogue, but there's been little of that between the Houthis and Israel. The militants have, however, told Washington they will stop attacking international shipping in the Red Sea, says U.S. President Donald Trump.
They just don't want to fight.
He says that would end U.S. attacks on Yemen.
And we will stop the bombings.
There is no such truce with Israel. Sasha Petrusik, CBC News, Washington.
In illo tempore dixit Iesus discipulis suis.
Cardinals gather at St. Peter's Basilica for the Holy Mass for the election of the Roman Pontiff. The 133 men will soon enter the Sistine Chapel for the conclave. They will be locked inside and cut off from the outside world until they elect a new pope. The 267th pontiff will succeed the late Pope Francis. This conclave is unique. 108 of the 133 cardinals were chosen by Francis. Many of them come from countries that had never had a cardinal before. Reaching the 2/3 majority could prove difficult given many of the cardinals are meeting for the first time. Canada's business community says it sees a path to ending the Canada-U.S. trade war, and it was U.S. President Donald Trump who may have cleared the way. At his meeting with Prime Minister Mark Carney yesterday at the White House, Trump offered a strong defense of the Canada-U.S.-Mexico trade deal. As Peter Armstrong tells us, some say that could be enough to reset relations.
Thank you very much, everybody. It's a great honor to have Prime Minister Mark Carney.
In an Oval Office known for blunt talk and a president famous for saying whatever's on his mind, there was a subtle but important message in yesterday's meeting between Donald Trump and Mark Carney.
Is USMCA dead?
No, it was actually very effective, and it's still very effective, but people have to follow it. So, that's been a problem.
That doesn't sound like much, but many heard that and felt Trump was offering a détente of sorts. Goldie Hyder, president of the Business Council of Canada, says he's been telling businesses that the path through the trade war lies within the confines of the Canada-U.S.-Mexico free trade deal.
That's all we've been saying, and I think the president has opened a wide open door, and we need to drive through it.
Hyder says Carney and Trump are set to meet in person again at the G7 summit in Kananaskis, Alberta in June. Why not, he says, invite Mexico's president and use CUSMA as a way of resetting the trade relationship and jump-starting negotiations to end the trade war. Peter Armstrong, CBC News, Washington.
In his meeting at the White House yesterday, Carney mentioned he will be reporting back to the country's premiers, so we expect a First Minister's meeting to happen later today. Former U.S. President Joe Biden is speaking out about Donald Trump and his administration. In his first interview since leaving the White House, Biden tells the BBC that Trump is failing to understand the strength of alliances like NATO. And Biden made it clear he does not like how Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky was treated during his visit to Washington.
I found it sort of beneath America, the way that took place. And the way we talk about now that, it's the Gulf of America. Maybe we're going to have to take back Panama. Maybe we need to acquire Greenland. Maybe Canada should be. What the hell's going on here? What president ever talks like that?
Biden says America is about freedom, democracy, and opportunity, not confiscation. CBC News and international partners have identified a key person behind a notorious deep-fake pornography site. He's a Canadian pharmacist, and he's connected to a website that hosted tens of thousands of non-consensual and sometimes violent deepfake videos and images. It targeted celebrities, politicians, influencers, and even private citizens. Eric Cito from the CBC's Visual Investigations Unit has the details.
We've been trying to talk to you for weeks. You're hearing our attempt to talk to a man named David Doe. He's not interested in commenting. Doe is a Canadian pharmacist in the Greater Toronto Area, a husband, and a key figure behind the most notorious deepfake porn site in the world. That's based on an investigation that linked usernames, IP addresses, and passwords to him. Online safety expert Adam Dodge says Mr. Deepfakes was a pioneer in the deepfake world, putting the faces of real people into sexually explicit and sometimes violent videos without their consent.
It's incredible, and I'm incredulous that this site has been allowed to survive this long. It is still a place where you can learn the tricks of the trade.
But the site was shut down last weekend following repeated requests for comment from CBC News and its international partners, Bellingcat and Danish outlets Jekta and Politiken. Deepfake porn often focuses on major celebrities like Michael Bublé and Emma Watson. But our investigation came across videos of regular people too, like Sarah Zed, a Canadian YouTuber. She was deepfaked.
Every time it is being used on some really big name celebrity like Taylor Swift, it emboldens people to use it on much smaller, much more niche, more private individuals like me.
Creating and distributing deepfake porn of adults isn't illegal in Canada, even though it is in places like Australia and the UK. Prime Minister Mark Carney promised to criminalize it during the election campaign. Eric Cito, CBC News, Toronto.
You can read about how our visual investigations team tracked down Mr. Deepfakes at cbcnews.ca. And that is the latest national and international news from World Report. News anytime, cbcnews.ca. I'm Marcia Young. News.